Welcome back into Double Nickel. Today I want to share with you 3 things that you need to take care of before you retire. Before we start, I want to add a disclaimer that none of these are pieces of top secret information or things that only the insiders are aware of. They're actually pretty obvious, but having started this channel where I focus a lot on retirement and time management later in life, and nearing my own retirements, resulted in a lot of conversations with people, and I'm actually pretty surprised that these things aren't always handled well for people as they approach retirement. Now, very few people I know just decide someday randomly with no plan that they're going to retire, but I do find that in many cases not a whole lot of forethought goes into it. People use round numbers and ages, things like that as sort of benchmarks, and they just one day decide it's time. That may work, but it's not really advisable in my mind. So let's share those 3 things. Number 1 is a financial plan. I think it's pretty obvious. You have to be able to afford to retire, or you certainly need to be able to afford to retire. And as you prepare for that, it looks to me like you have about 2 options. You can do the DIY approach where you take care of it yourself. That's my choice, by the way. I use some software called Bolden. I'm not endorsing them in any way, or certainly not compensated by them, so I have nothing to gain here. You could probably find other good tools, but if you're going to do it yourself, I would strongly recommend that you use some good software and you take time to understand the features and use all the inputs that the software makes available to you, so you get a complete picture. You can do it that way, or you can hire a professional, someone whose job it is to take care of you, who has experience in this category. So maybe you're someone that isn't very interested in financial matters, or you don't understand them and don't want to understand them, or you don't have time. There's a lot of reasons you'd want to use a professional. Maybe you have so many assets that you just need another set of eyes on it to feel good about your situation. Any of those are okay. Regardless of your approach, eventually someone's going to provide to you, or maybe some software, what's known as a Monte Carlo simulation, where it runs, I believe it's 10,000 simulations based on the inputs you provide. So the outputs is only as good as the inputs that you give it. So you want to be very diligent to make sure you put in all your expenses that you plan to have in retirement. Try to think of all those things that are random, that maybe happen once a year, property taxes and so forth. And so you bake all that in. And of course, you know how many assets you have and how they're invested. The Monte Carlo simulation takes all that data and runs those simulations based on market performance and your portfolio, and spits out a result. And from what I can tell, if you're 80 to 90% range, you're doing really well. You may have to make some adjustments to your spending plan, but you're probably going to be all right. Anything beyond 90, it sounds like, from what I can understand, you're in the very, very safe zone. So that's a little bit redundant, because I think for most of us, it's clear we have to have a financial plan and some capacity in that area. But I wanted to mention it because it is a requirement. You do have to be financially ready to retire if you're able to. There's a couple of things, though, that associate with that. They're related, that aren't quite as obvious, and that can easily get missed, or maybe just not dealt with at all. I think communication leading into retirement is really important. I've heard some approaches where don't tell anybody till the last minute. I think that's a terrible approach. For one thing, you don't get to enjoy kind of your 4th quarter or the 2-minute warning to the end of the game, to use football illustrations, bottom half of the 9th inning, all those sports analogies. You don't get to enjoy with others around you and participate in everyone understanding where you are. So I think communicating where you're at and what you have in mind is very important for yourself, so you're clear and people's expectations of you are fair and are within a context of knowing that you're on your way out at work. But you also need to communicate with your spouse, your children. People have expectations of us. And it's important they know where we're at so they can adjust their expectations. And then if it's your spouse, and especially you're the primary breadwinner, maybe they have the need to feel some level of security that you've done that thorough job and effective job with financial planning that we just talked about earlier. So strongly recommend you that you start communicating early and clearly. You hear people's concerns. In the end, it's your decision, it's your career, and you have to retire when it's your time and it's right for you. But if you're in a relationship with someone else and it's going to affect their life, it's obviously the right and fair thing to do to include them in the conversation. For your kids, they need to know what you have in mind. I don't think surprises are healthy. You're going to be surprised, though, when you start communicating this, especially maybe as you get further out from your most central circle to maybe friends and acquaintances. Not everyone's going to be overjoyed with your decision. There's a lot of reasons for that. Maybe it's going to cause a friendship that's driven by work to fade, and people kind of know that intuitively. It makes them sad. Maybe there's people that have interest in you continuing to work, and it kind of hurts their interest for you not to be there, either at work or what it is you get from work, your financial compensation. A lot of reasons. And then sadly, probably the most ugly of them all is the jealousy one, where people aren't able to retire themselves. Maybe they didn't plan well, didn't save, they weren't disciplined in that area, and so they can't retire. And there's a little bit of jealousy that sometimes comes out in a little bit of a condemning way. So just be prepared for that when you start sharing with people what your plans are, especially in your 50s. Not everybody's going to celebrate and be excited for you. So you need to go into it ready to understand that. So you have the financial component, and then you need to communicate. And then the most important, I think, for you as an individual is let your dreams become plans. What do I mean by that? Well, you can plan and plan and plan financially. You can run all the scenarios and simulations and make sure your balance is large enough and pay things off and organize your bills and spending in such a way that you've taken care of all or almost all of the risk, at least all that you can address. And you can communicate with everyone what your intentions are, and everyone get on board with you, and things are all smoothed over and going well in your relationships. But when you do retire, one thing I haven't experienced yet, but I hear from everyone, is it's a little bit amazing what all that time is suddenly like. I can tell you from listening to others that there's that temporary and early on sense of great relief and kind of a period where you sort of detox from the work world and you mentally and physically reset and rest. But then when that ends, you've got this energy and time, if you're still healthy and you're young enough, and you can get a bit restless. And if you haven't prepared for that, if you haven't thought about what am I going to do with this time, what am I retiring to, what's my plan, then you'll go through a period that a lot of people describe as kind of a depression, a little bit of lost identity, and lack of direction in life. I'm trying to avoid that. I'm already working toward some planning for 2 really large trips at minimum, more than a week or even 2 weeks, pretty extended trips in 2027. And I'm trying to do a good job of planning for them so that we can make the very most of our time, but do it in a way that it's not that stressful pressure that you have on like a 1 week or 10-day vacation during your career. The other thing is some health stuff. I want to become more fit. I want to be able to eat better. So thinking about learning to cook some things that I don't now is something that's a little bit interesting to me. I've taken up this hobby of this channel. Doesn't really amount to much, but some of you seem to really enjoy it. So I'm gonna keep doing it for that reason. And the other reason is I thoroughly enjoy it. I get a little bit of a therapeutic release out of being able to share some thoughts that roll around in my head. So I have some hobbies lined up, some things you look forward to, some plans. Don't cram it so full that you feel like you've got a new job, I wouldn't recommend that. That's what you're trying to retire from. But also don't leave it blank. Don't just assume it'll work itself out and that time will just fill itself. Because as I can understand, if you've got 24 hours a day and nowhere to be, that's going to become a little bit lost. So those are the three things I wanted to share with you today. Have a financial plan. Make sure you've done the diligence, done the work to be ready financially. Communicate with those who love you and that you love and that you care about. I think most people that care for you will get on board. They will support you in the end. Just recognize that there's a little bit of a transition there as people get used to their relationship with you being a relationship that went from someone who had a job, and that's a lot of our identity, to someone that's just Bill or Joe or Jane, and there's no title or job attached to that. So communicate, address those things in advance, and then turn your dreams into plans and actions and goals that you want to reach for when you finally do retire. So I hope those three things have helped you out a little bit. If you're approaching retirement, be sure you take care of those. If you're still a ways off, stick those in your pocket and know that someday you need to tend to those items. The thing you can do now, go back to the episode on you can't catch your younger self. Begin to save and invest. Be disciplined about that so that when your time comes that you can retire, you've made yourself ready. Well, hey, until next time, let's see where Double Nickel takes us.